Hello and welcome again to RC Model Reviews, and here's the promised part 2 of the Turnigy 9XR transmitter, and this time we're going to pull it apart, see how well it's been put together, see what's inside, because you never know. I have a feeling it's going to be fairly similar to the old 9X. I don't think they'll have made too many changes, but hopefully the build quality is better. So let's get stuck in and do it. Okay, so it's time to tear down the Turnigy 9XR and see what's inside. I've already taken the screws out of the case, so let's take the back off and see what we find. There it is. We've got the main logic board down here, not too dissimilar to the old radio. Got the little module interface board up here, some extra circuitry up there, and the little wires that go off to the processor for if you want to reprogram it. So there's no built-in programmer. It simply takes out what's called the ICSP, the in-circuit programming wires come out to here, and you need a little programmer card if you want to plug into that to reprogram the firmware, but you shouldn't need to. I mean, it comes with a version of the ER9X software, and it's really good. It's an excellent piece of software. It makes this radio more powerful than a DX8 or many of the other commercial radios that you might be thinking of buying. Now, the first thing I noticed when I took this radio apart was that during construction, it seems like this particular wire here, just down here, was actually compressed against the board because it wasn't routed properly. It's actually sitting over a little plastic support, so it actually squashed the insulation somewhat. It's a small thing, but it'd be nice if the wires were routed properly. It didn't cause any problems, no short circuits, but it's if they made a nice lumen there, that would be just a little bit better, but we can't really grizzle. It's only a $50 radio. And here is the built-in antenna for the module. If you get a module with a little RF jack and you plug it in, this little jack down the bottom, it will bring the signal up here to this built-in antenna, and you might think, oh, that's pretty bodge, but actually this is all you have inside the standard black whip aerials. The little ones are stubby aerials you put on the back of your module or poke out the top of your transmitter, so there's nothing wrong with that standard aerial. That's going to work every bit as well as the external aerials you used to get on the old radio or on all other brands of 2.4 gig radios. And the fact it's built into the handle is excellent because it's totally protected. It's not going to break off, or the wire isn't going to fray due to constant flexing as you move the aerial antenna around. And it's in a good position. It'd be nice if it was vertically polarized when you're using the radio, but it's horizontally polarized, and quite often when you install your 2.4 gig gear, you have one of the antennas anyway laying horizontal, so that's fine. Now, looking at the main processor board, as I said, not much has really changed. We've got an AMD processor here, which is a 8-bit processor. It's the same as in the Turnigy 9X pretty much. If I find a little pointer again, we find that there is a voltage regulator over here. Now, this is a linear voltage regulator. So what that means is if you're running a 3-cell LiPo pack, then you're going to be wasting a lot of the power that would normally go to the processor chip simply as heat through that little linear regulator. Now, that's not so much of an issue because these things draw next to no current. But if you've got when you put your module in, that's also going to be running off the main pack. So if the module really only needs a 2-cell pack, then running a 3-cell is simply, going to waste power if the module has a linear regulator. Fortunately, most of the modules these days are switch mode, so it doesn't matter, and a 3-cell pack will work just fine. Although, as I said in the last video, I'd rather use an LIFE pack than a LiPo for obvious reasons. And here are the stick units. They're pretty basic, pretty straightforward. Now, someone told me they were actually ball bearing gimbals, but at least the potentiometer end is just a bush. They just have the normal bushed pot, so I really couldn't feel much difference. I think the old one of the points I liked about the old radio was that the sticks were really, really good. For a $50 radio, they're brilliant. In fact, I like them better than the sticks on the JR XG8, which is a radio costing, 6 or 7 times as much. So yeah, I mean, these sticks are pretty standard. They've got a friction strip on here. This is the throttle, so there's a friction strip. One thing I have found is that changing modes is nowhere near as easy with the new radio as the old one. So if you're going to buy one, make sure you buy it already set up for the right mode. Otherwise, you'll spend a lot of time trying to change the sticks over. In fact, it's easier, I think, just to replace the whole gimbal from side to side and rerun these wires, maybe extend them to the other side, and then do a recalibration using the calibration facility in the software. Now, one of my other grizzles with the original 9X was the soldering on things like these switches. It was really bodge. The soldering's better, but I would like to have seen some heat shrink supporting these wires. Although they're not likely to get moved around much, it's just a nice touch, and a lot of other radios do support the wires where they are soldered onto switches. It's just a little thing, but I keep telling myself it's a $50 radio, so you really can't grizzle. Now, from a build perspective, one thing I do like is there are lots and lots of screws holding this case together, which makes it quite rigid, quite stiff. If I bring the back up here, you can see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 screws hold the two halves of the case together. And it also nice is the fact that the back of the case comes away completely without any boards. On the old one, I think you find there was a board attached on here and it had a cable to the motherboard. So yeah, this is a much more elegant piece of plastic, much better physical design, and it makes it so much easier to get into the back of the radio. Not that you ever need to, because everything you want, the programming jack and the RF jack, they're all provided as a connector. So you don't need to open up the back of this thing. It's brilliant. So there we go, the insides of the 9X are, and I'm quite pleased with them. Certainly, I've seen a lot of brand name expensive radios that look worse than this, so I don't think we can grumble at all about the build quality. You know, if you're doing it yourself, you'd make a few improvements, but it's a $50 radio. Can't say that often enough. Can't say that often enough. And certainly it's better than the 9X was in terms of its build quality, and a number of the design features are better as well, as I've just discussed. So let's put it back together, and if it still goes, we'll take a look at the software, see how it works. Okay, as you'll recall, one of my gripes was that this rocks around a lot, so hopefully I'll get it reasonably steady for this video section. Now, it says a 9XR, and now the old radio was terrible. It just said, switch error if you turned it on with some of the switches in the wrong place. And this is far more friendly. It's a version of the ER9X software, which is well proven, and it's a really nice piece of software. Look at this. Now, the throttle is up at the moment, so I'll pull the throttle down, and it's still alerted though, because it says tells you which switches are in the wrong place, so you can just flick all the switches, and hopefully, when I flick them all, the alert goes away. There you are, look at that. And that's your main screen. Far more useful, I think, than the old 9X, and even without the backlight, it's a brilliant contrast. It's just like it's not sort of too far different to the old 9X, but it's really nice. I like it. That's a good improvement, the screen. And of course, we've got the ER9X software. This is a bit of a gimmick. I mean, it shows you the stick position on the screen. I mean, well, I can tell by looking at the stick what the stick position is, so this is just a waste of space. It would have been much nicer if they had made facility for supporting the FreeSky telemetry on the screen, because some versions of the ER9X software do actually have support for the FreeSky telemetry. How great would it be if it had your altitude and your speed and things on here instead of just the stick positions? But you can change this, I think. The ER9X is quite configurable. I'll do a separate video on the ER9X software because it really is a wonderful piece of software. I've been promising for a while, but I really will do it this time. And we may use the Turnigy 9X as an example. So we'll go through some basics like setting up a model using the software. That might be part 3 of this video. But there we go. There's the basic thing. Now, I haven't driven this thing. I don't know. And I don't use the 9X too much, but there we go. There's your model select screen. That's pretty basic. We've only got one model in there, but as I mentioned in the last video, there's actually provision in the software now to have up to 16 models, which is double the amount of the old, here we go, 16. Double the amount of the old firmware in the 9X software. It's brilliant because, as I said, I had to buy 2 radios to get enough model memories, but at $50 each, I wasn't complaining. And so, yeah, this is top quality. This is excellent. Now, as I say, what I'll do is I'm going to go through and do a whole video on this firmware because it really does deserve a video of its own. And if you've already got a 9X, you really, really might want to think about upgrading. One of the problems I found with the 9X, ER9X software is it's more complex, so therefore it takes longer to learn a lot of the basic operations. Some things that are so simple with the standard firmware and the 9X are a little bit harder with the ER9X, but only because it's so much more powerful. But there we go, that's what it looks like on the screen. And if I just pan up here, you can see there's that blue ready sign glaring at you like a Cylon eye or something. Someone's going to tell me Cylons have got red eyes. Never mind. So there we go, that's the radio. And so I think I'll do a little summary, shall I? So there we have it. That is the ER9X, or sorry, the 9XR with the ER9X variant software in it. And some people I think were a little bit disappointed that I had picked fault with this new radio in the first part of the video review. And I have to point out that the faults I picked were simply the fact that they took a really good radio and turned it into a really good radio, when they could have taken a really good radio and made it a truly excellent radio by flappy paddles and things like that. So it wasn't so much a complaint about the radio itself as to what they didn't do. They missed the opportunities. But for $50, you could buy either of these radios, the 9X or the 9XR, and you'd be very, very happy. Because They're brilliant value for money, absolutely stunning. You cannot buy. People go out and buy DX7s and spend a fortune. And comparatively, the DX7 doesn't have the features. It's crap by comparison. Not to say the DX7 is a crap radio, but if you do a comparison, line by line comparison, this just blows, especially with this new software, just blows the DX7 out of the water, even the new one. And the DX8, well, I'll give the DX8 some bonus points for having the flippy side pedals. Futaba FG8, yeah, it may be better, but look at the price. Look at the price of these Futabas, these JRs, these Spectrum radios. Compare them to the price you pay for this. And on a value stake, you just cannot beat this. Anyone who's getting into the hobby has to buy one of these, because you can spend so much money on the other radios when you could take that money and buy lots of models with it, and you'd still have just as much success with this radio as with the big, expensive, spendy brand name one. So I've got nothing against brand name radios. I've got JR radios. I've had Futabas in the past. But quite honestly, today, unless I had a specific requirement that I couldn't squeeze into this, like maybe I need the flappy pedals, then I would stick with the Turnigy. In fact, you know, I've been flying the first Turnigy that came out, the IMAX, came out nearly 4 years ago, I think. I bought it. It's still used. Down there, I still use it. It still works. That's a pretty good indication of how much I like these radios. And as I say, they're not perfect. The trims on these go wonky. I think everyone in the local club has got a wonky trim button. They're easily fixed, but the trims on these are supposedly better. And in fact, they don't click. Maybe they're better quality switches. I will come back, because what I'll do, we'll do a 100,000 mile checkup. We'll come back in a couple of months when I'm going to give this radio to someone in the club. I'll give it to Barry, and he'll use it. He'll use it hard for the next couple of months, and we'll come back and have a look. See what's broken, if anything. You know, I'm quite confident that nothing will break, because having looked at the build quality, it's damn good. So there you go. If I'm going to do an out of 10, I'd say these radios are a damn good 7.5 out of 10, especially in the value arena. This, well, it's got the programming jack, it's got the built-in antenna handle. I don't like some of the way they've changed the ergonomics, but to be honest, for the money, it's a 7.5 out of 10. It's the same as this one, but it's better in some ways, not so good in others. You can make a choice. Now, I'm pretty sure that Hobby King, who sell these, would like you to buy this one, because these were made by FlySky. So I think Hobby King's probably going to make a bit more money out of these, because they're branded Hextronic inside, and they're made with the Turnigy brand on the outside, so they're probably not simply buying them in and selling them, they're probably manufacturing them. So if you want to support Hobby King, you definitely go this one, because it means more money in their pockets. And that's it. Now, somebody did mention, because I know, they don't have a module in the back for these to work with the old Turnigy setup, the standard Turnigy setup that comes with the 9X. There's no module that I've seen yet, but of course you can buy the FlySky 9X module, the THX9 module, which has an antenna on the back and will plug in there to keep you going in the meantime if you wish to. The best solution, of course, is putting a DIY in here and hooking up the FreeSky telemetry and reflashing the software to the version of software that actually supports the telemetry, and I'll be showing you how to do that in a future video. I'm going to order another one of these, not because I like them so much, but because I'm going to give this one to Barry, as I said, and I'll have another one we'll use for the hack machine. I'll show you how to reflash the software, I'll show you how to install the support for the FreeSky telemetry, and we'll see how that works out. So that's it for part 2. Any questions on the bottom of the video? If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, because that always helps. And watch out for the next video on this particular radio, in which I'll show you how to use the software, do some basic tasks like set up a model, maybe a bit of aileron elevon mixing, maybe a delta wing setup, a few things like that. So some of the more complicated aspects of the software hopefully will become a little easier. So thank you. I'll see you again soon on RC Model Reviews.